Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grid Live Wrap-Up. I'm Ben Schneider. With me is Kobe Lambeth from the Podium Finish, Adam Lemerise, Josh Birch, and Joe Samaniego finishing up his assignment at Portland International Raceway, covering the Grand Prix of Portland. Before we get started, we want to acknowledge the passing of NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour championship-winning team owner Eddie Partridge. On Friday night, Ryan Prix won the Modified Tour event at Richmond and celebrated in Victory Lane with his longtime friend and car owner Partridge. Partridge had a medical incident take place and unfortunately passed away just hours after scoring a big win as a car owner. Yesterday morning, Prix referred to Partridge as one of his best friends and raced with a heavy heart at Richmond last night. Partridge also owned Riverhead Raceway in New York, the same track the Modified Tour will be racing at on September 18th. We want to extend our deepest condolences to the Partridge family and friends during this difficult time. This weekend, we had a lot of racing take place: Indycar, NASCAR, Formula One, MotoGP, World Rally Championship, and Imsa. Joe's been doing an excellent job at the track, covering the Indycar Grand Prix of Portland for the last several days, and Joe, will get to you in a moment. But first, let's have Kobe kick it off with the major storylines from Indycar at Portland.
Yes, Ben, there's quite a bit to talk about today from Portland National Raceway. And I'll say, if Felix Rosenqvist did not avoid Alex Palou during the chaos we saw in Turn 1 with multiple drivers missing the turns, others spinning and stall, we'd be talking about a different outcome today. We saw several cautions, some contact, lots of different strategies, and to my surprise, the overcut really seemed to prevail over the undercut at Portland. But overall, just a perfect race from the Grand Prix of Portland race winner, Alex Palou, holding off Alexander Rossi in the closing laps. And my first question is going to you, Joe. And I want to know, how did Alex Palou capitalize today over his main championship rival, Pato O'Ward, who really did not have a great day, finishing in 14th place?
He really capitalized by keeping a cool head and mind on the bigger picture. Let's just go out there, get as many positions, and try to still get this win. In the post-race conference, he talked about how, he was a little bit frustrated with the ruling by Indycar to go towards the back of the pack, but he worked his way to the front. At the same time, we saw strategy and that overcut really work out. And one of the big things we're noticing, it just seems his attitude is always really great. I know Scott Dixon, the post-race conference, had also said too that he just always seems to have a very positive attitude, always asking questions, always willing to learn. And this is just the kind of mentality you need to get a championship. And I think he really showed he is championship caliber to go out there, get the win. And as you'll see, I did ask him if he was doing any point racing at all or thinking about that for his rivals, where pretty much he would just focus on, nope, head down, let's go get the race. And now look where he is. He's leading the points with 2 races to go. Very exciting ever from him. Here's from Alex himself in the press conference.
Joe from GRIDnet. When it came to the race today, especially after what happened in the Festival Corners, at any point were you thinking about the championship or what your rival was doing? We know some drivers start thinking about points, or some just focus on going out there just trying to get the best results.
I mean, you always think, and you never think about the championship. So I knew I had to be in front of Pato, Dixon, and Newgarden to be happy tonight. But I needed to win, so I was fighting really hard with Rossi. He was pushing me a lot, and I knew that those, I don't know what's different, 8 points or 5 points between P1 and P2, they were really viable. So I was fighting as if I was never thinking of the championship, and I think that gave us the win today. Otherwise, Rossi would have passed us. So we think about the race, and I think until the last pit stop at Long Beach, we're not going to think about what do I really need to do to win this championship.
All of Long Beach and then Laguna Seca, how are you feeling about those, especially since you haven't raced at those tracks either?
Yeah, so Laguna Seca next week, it's going to be good for us. We tested there. I feel strong there. It's a road course. I think we've been fighting for all the road course races this year, so feeling pretty strong about that. Long Beach, that's going to be interesting and exciting, but nothing I can do about it. Never been there. All my competitors been there and won races there. So it's a bit scary, but hopefully I can do the job at Laguna so I can be a bit more comfortable at Long Beach. But this year I think we struggled a bit on the first couple of races on street courses, but we got podium at Detroit. We qualified to P3 at Nashville. So yeah, we're fast on street courses too.
And we remember Pelot's engine issues at Indy, getting taken out in a crash at Gateway. Award briefly claimed the advantage in the championship, and some wonder if Pelot would be able to respond to the pressure of trying to recover from 2 bad races in a row, racing at Laguna Seca next weekend and Long Beach the following week. It seems like the pressure has shifted over to Pato O'Ward, now 25 points behind Pelot. And first question goes to you, Adam. Did Pelot make a major statement today with his performance?
Oh, yeah, he sure did. He's one driver to look out for in these last 2 races for the championship. He was strong all day. He had the overcut, and if it got him the win. Overall, Alex Palou will be a championship contender. And don't be surprised in the last 2 races, he wins at either Laguna Seca or Long Beach. He is a driver to be looked out for at the end of this year, but also in future years in the NTT Indycar Series.
I absolutely agree with you as well there, Adam, as well. Nobody expected that today, especially after what happened right at the start of the race as well. Pelou has really just stepped up the mark today, as you said, and we said in commentary as well. 2 very bad races with retirements as well at Indianapolis and Gateway. And I think today he's just giving him that little push and a little bit of a refresh he needs going into the last couple of races. He's now back ahead of the title after losing it last time out to Pato O'Ward. He's 25 points ahead. Who can stop him? To be fair, we saw in the race it was changing several times. I'm very, very excited to see where this end of the season is going to go. And I'm definitely thinking as well, as we said at the end of the broadcast for the race commentary, it's hard to bet against that Pelou maybe has one hand on the title, but there is 3 other people right behind him, maybe even 4 mathematically, that want to take that crown away from him at the end of the year.
Yeah, who would have thought after what we saw in the first corner with Pelot, Dixon, and Rossi all going off that they would be the top 3 at the end of the day. Look, I think, the championship battle is still very wide open. Josh, like you said, there's 4, maybe even 5 if you want to throw Marcus Ericsson in there. Driver's still mathematically eligible. But it's hard to bet against Alex Pelou. I mean, imagine if he hadn't had the engine issue at the Indianapolis road course, the IMS road course, and the crash at Gateway. I think he'd certainly be a championship favorite if that were the case and he had gotten good finishes there. And yet, despite that, he's still got a 25-point lead of a championship here. So, I think it's still certainly too early to call and give the title to him yet. But if there is a favorite among the 4 or 5 that we still have in contention for the title, I think it's hard to look past Pelot there.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to give Alex Pelot the title just yet 2 races prematurely, but I do agree that I think he's the favorite to win the championship. And earlier in the season, Scott Dixon was talking about Alex Pelot, how he followed him around and acted just like he did. And I think that's really good for Alex Pelot because it seems like he's a sponge who really absorbs a lot of information. And he's learning a lot from Scott Dixon, learning how Scott Dixon prepares races, and he's trying to emulate that. And I think that's working out very well for him. And I saw in a tweet from Jennifer from the Associated Press saying that Alex Pelot went over to Jimmy Johnson twice to talk to him about what's it like to race for a championship. And as we all know, based on all of Jimmy Johnson's accomplishments, 7 NASCAR Cup Series championships, there's no one better to ask about winning a championship than Jimmy Johnson. And having Johnson, Scott Dixon to lean on, I think that certainly gives Alex Pelot an advantage heading into these final 2 races because those 2 veteran drivers know a lot about winning races and championships. And if he has any questions, he has 2 wonderful teammates to ask. And with Pelot entering the final 2 races with a 25-point advantage over Pato O'Ward, Joseph Newgarden 34 back, Scott Dixon has to make up 49 points, and Marcus Ericsson 75 behind, and those are the only drivers who are still mathematically eligible to win the title. Joe, in your opinion, is the championship down to Palou versus Award? Does Newgarden, Dixon, or even Ericsson have a fighting chance?
It is really now a two-horse race between Alex Palou and Pato O'Ward. Scott Dixon in the post-race press conference said, essentially, he's nearly a full race behind. Remember, you get 50 points for a win. You get bonus points if you get the pole, lead a lap, and 2 bonus points for leading the most laps. Last place, especially if we have 27, 26 or more vehicles, it's going to get 5 points. So really, he needs Alex Palou to go out of the next race, finish dead last, and Scott Dixon has to do everything to score the maximum points just to try to get tied with him. Then it's all game on for Long Beach. But as he said it best, realistically, he doesn't feel like it's within reach unless something was to go where it could really help them out. It's really going to be, I believe, how McLaren's going to respond. Because Pato O'Ward, after getting that lead after the first corner, the first lap, I think a lot of folks anticipated he was going to go out there for sure get a podium. That didn't happen, and look at the end result. The 3 cars that were in the mess, they're on the podium. Pato O'Ward further back. Still, though, with the next 2 races, anything can happen here in the NTT Indycar Series, and it's going to be an exciting 2 more races this season.
Yes, the end of the season should definitely be thrilling. And some drivers who had a great day, Alexander Rossi, put together a complete race and contended for the win, finishing runner-up. Jack Harvey in fourth, a really good run trying to win with Meyer Shank Racing before he leaves the team at the end of the current season. Felix Rosenqvist, 6th place, finally building that chemistry with Arrow McLaren SP after having such a rough start to the 2021 season. Scott McLaughlin, top 10 finish. On the other hand, others didn't have the day they wanted, like Simon Pagenaud making contact with his Team Penske teammate Will Power. Roman Grosjean just had a awful weekend all around, had a disappointing qualifying, was involved in the lap 1 incident, and he really hasn't looked comfortable at Portland. This is one of the few tracks on the schedule where Roman Grosjean really did not have the speed to be competitive. And Callum Ilott stalled in his IndyCar debut, went behind the wall, lost multiple laps. James Hinchcliffe got damaged on lap 1, retired from the race, and he seemed very frustrated today if you watched Joe's interview on the watch along. And leaving Portland, out of the drivers I just mentioned, which driver has to feel the most satisfied or disappointed about their race?
Well, the most satisfied to me is very clearly Alexander Rossi. If last season was a bad year for him, I don't even know what you would call this season so far. It's been absolutely dreadful for the Andretti Autosport driver. And finally today converts a front row start into a podium finish. So very good day for him, and certainly something that he can use to take momentum and build through Laguna Seca and Long Beach, a track where he's dominated at the last couple of times IndyCar's raced there. Obviously, we didn't get to race there last year because of the pandemic. But I think Rossi, really made a good statement today for him and his team, and hopefully this is going to be the start of a turnaround for everybody at Andretti Autosport, and his teammate James Hinchcliffe in particular. To answer the other part of the question, Hinchcliffe hasn't had a very strong year either. He did have a nice run at Nashville, but you definitely saw in the interview with Joe, he was not too happy being taken out on the opening lap with circumstances outside of his control. So, it's been unfortunate. I had high hopes for Hinch that the reunion between him and Andretti, which we saw some success with at the start of the decade, would lead to some success again, because Hinch is a good guy and a very popular driver. It's important for him, in my opinion, to be able to be competitive in this series because he does have such a popular fan base. But in terms of Andretti today, I think you had polar opposites at the end of the spectrum there. A great day for Rossi, something they can use to build momentum, but just a terrible weekend for Hinchcliffe ultimately to be taken out, circumstances outside your control. So hopefully he can bounce back from that as we close out the year.
For me, my drivers of the day are Alexander Rossi, who came home second, and Jack Harvey, who came home in P4. Like you were talking about, Ben, Alexander Rossi has a year that he wants to forget. But he started on the front row and came home runner-up to Alex Palou. Maybe this will give him a small bit of momentum going into Laguna Seca and Long Beach. The I feel sorry for James Hinchcliffe as well. He's a well-known IndyCar driver. He has loads of fans. Know him as Hinch, and his following called Hinchtown. I don't think the people in Hinchtown were very happy today, especially after what happened on lap 1. Overall, for me, it was a really good IndyCar race, and I'm looking forward to the last 2 races when the series heads to the Golden State of California.
Completely agree with you as well there, guys, because I think it was a great race. And I certainly, as I said in the commentary in the watch along, I really enjoyed seeing Jack Harvey get up through that field. It started 20th as well, didn't get caught up in that accident, and got up there for 4th place as well. At one point, he was running 3rd, but Dixon got back ahead of him at the end of it. He's definitely had a good day, but I thought, even though we went behind the wall, as you said, there, Kobe, I think Callum Ilot's had a good day as well. He's had a good weekend. It's his first time at IndyCar. He's running the end of the season as well. I think this is a good run-in for when next weekend rolls around as well for Laguna Seca. So he got some testing laps in, which I think is good. Trust me, next time out, we'll see the real Callum Ilott. Driver who did badly today and this weekend. Yeah, Hinchcliffe didn't have a great day, but I think Romain Grosjean, to wrap it up as well, Grosjean definitely could have done more, definitely needed to do more, and that ridiculous dive bomb move he did at turn 1 when the race started as well. That is the Grosjean of old 2012. But a race cannot be won at the start. And I thought he'd learned that, but he clearly hasn't, because today was very much a big off day for him by diving up the inside there. So yeah, Grosjean, my driver, he's got more to learn in IndyCar starts.
Yeah, not a good day for Romain Grosjean, but the driver I'm picking who had a great best day in my opinion was Alexander Rossi. And I mentioned on Twitter when I was live tweeting during the race that Rossi hasn't won since June 2019. It's been over 2 years, and for him to finally go out there and look like the Alexander Rossi, I don't know if it's correct to say this, but the Alexander Rossi of old, the Alexander Rossi we thought was going to take the IndyCar series by storm, winning multiple races in a season and competing for the championship every single year. And I believe today we saw a little bit of that old Alexander Rossi. And since Rossi is a West Coast guy, the West Coast swing, I think it'll be a great opportunity for him in that number 27 Andretti Autosport team to build some momentum heading into 2022, nail off 3 strong finishes, maybe even win a race or 2, and at Laguna Seca and Long Beach, and then 2022 roll around, and you can see that Alexander Rossi we saw a couple of seasons ago, and the driver I think who has to be most disappointing. You saw it in Joe's interviews, James Hinchcliffe, very frustrated. We all know he's not going to be returning to Andretti Autosport next year. That seat is right now expected to go to their Indy Lights driver Devlin DeFrancesco, and right now it doesn't really seem like there's many open seats out there for James Hinchcliffe to go to, and he might be in the same position where he's gonna have to sit on the sidelines and wait for a seat to open up, whether it be full time or part time or just in Indianapolis 500 deal only. Or if you saw him doing the SRX series during the summer, I thought he did a really good job in the commentary booth. Maybe motorsports broadcasting could be here. I don't want to send James Hinchcliffe off into retirement too soon, but if nothing really opens up for him, I wonder if he would consider trading his driver's helmet for a suit and tie in the broadcast booth. And before we let you go, Joe, we want to thank you for your wonderful coverage all weekend long at Portland International Raceway. And with that said, do you have any final word for all of our viewers out there from PIR?
Definitely, I think today we saw potentially a championship statement from Alex Palou. It was on our pre-race show. We mentioned on how Alonso Jr., Takuma Sato, their first visit to Portland International Raceway, they both left with a win. Alex Palou now joins that group of drivers. He came off 2 bad races back-to-back, and we talk so often about momentum, having a bad race rebounded. He didn't have just 1 bad race, 2 bad races, both times under circumstances out of his control. When we talked to him a couple of weeks ago and interviewed him before this race weekend, you could just see he seems really calm, relaxed, talking about That was out of our control. We're just going to go out there, do what we've been doing. Today, it could have all easily gone wrong in that first lap in the festival corners. Then the ruling, you're going to go further back into the field and restart there. I think if you're not championship caliber, you would have probably been a little bit more deflated, lost your cool, all sorts of things could have gone wrong. They just kept at it, and they went out there, got the win. That is huge, and I think that's going to really send a statement that the new generation of IndyCar drivers are here. People still talk about Scott Dixon going for his next championship. Here we have somebody that's potentially going to be a first-time champion in 2 race weekends' time. So it's very exciting next 2 weekends for the IndyCar series, and we just want to give a special thank you to our Patreons, our viewers, supporters for supporting the Grid Network. This is our first time at the track. We also want to give a big shout out to everyone at IndyCar, the volunteers here at Portland International Raceway. They've been good to the media, just treating us like we're regulars, and it's just really overwhelming just to be part of this weekend, and especially to everyone at the Grid Network, Kobe, Adam, Ben, Josh. Thank you all so much. It's been a fun start, and hopefully many more of these weekends ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. Great coverage.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that a lot.
Yes, thank you, Joe. We really appreciate it, and we'll let you get going and wrap up there in the media center at Portland International Raceway. But we really appreciate all of the wonderful coverage you brought from the track all weekend long, and hopefully we'll have many more races that we'll be at on site in the future. And next, we're gonna look at some other racing that happened at Portland International Raceway this weekend. The ARCA Menard Series West had quite a controversial finish yesterday. Jake Drew, the young driver, was leading at the final restart, heading down into the tricky first set of corners, which we saw problems in today's IndyCar race on lap 1. Taylor Gray gave Jake Drew a big shove from behind, pushed him straight through, missing the turn, and he still came out ahead of Taylor Gray. And ARCA officials reviewed the situation, and they actually named Taylor Gray the race winner because they determined Jake Drew abused track limits despite him not having any control over Gray pushing him from behind. And this weekend in Indy Lights, David Malukas won the pole for both races, but only claimed one victory. Malukas won yesterday. Today, Kyle Kirkwood passed Malukas, who was battling hard with Linus Lundqvist for the lead. Kirkwood swept by both drivers on the outside to win the second race of the weekend with 4 races to go in the 2021 Indy Lights season. Malukas leads the championship over Kirkwood by 5 points. 2 races at Laguna Seca and the season finale doubleheader at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Scholarship money in the 2022 IndyCar seat is on the line. Both drivers' names have been mentioned in the rumor mill for potential race seats. And next, we're going to talk about the thrilling Formula One Italian Grand Prix at Monza.
Yes, another year, another race at Monza with an absolutely stunning result. Daniel Ricciardo passed Max Verstappen for the lead in turn 1, and surprisingly, never looked back. Ricciardo won the Italian Grand Prix. Lando Norris, his teammate, finished second. A 1-2 finish for McLaren, and McLaren's first Formula One victory since November 25th, 2012 in Brazil. We'll discuss McLaren's big day in a bit, but all the talk is about the scary crash that took out the 2 championship protagonists, Max Verstappen and Sir Lewis Hamilton, as the 2 title rivals collided once again. Hamilton was exiting the pits with Verstappen coming down the straight at full speed, leading to a tight squeeze in turn 1, and with neither driver giving an inch, Max hopped over the sausage curb and landed on top of Hamilton's car. And as you saw in the crash photos, the halo did its job protecting Lewis from a potential head injury. Once again, the Verstappen-Hamilton rivalry heats up. As both drivers crashed out of the race, the stewards actually gave Max a 3-place grid penalty for causing a collision, in their judgment, at the upcoming Russian Grand Prix. So Josh and Adam, what's your take on the crash and Max's grid penalty as well? And could this rivalry get even uglier as the season continues on?
It's definitely going to get uglier, and that is brilliant for us. You can smile as much as you like because it's going to be a great, great end to this season. it all sort of came up very quickly, didn't it? I mean, it was an unusual race from the get-go. Verstappen had a poor launch from pole position, and that allowed Danny Ricciardo to have a great launch towards the Rettifilo. As you say, Ben, got ahead and never looked back. He was in control of that race all the way throughout. I really want to stress it to everybody watching. Danny Ricciardo and Lando Norris have not just finished 1-2 today because of what happened with Hamilton and Verstappen. Hamilton and Verstappen were battling for 4th and 5th pretty much all throughout the race. They were struggling today because of the sprint race yesterday, maybe, but they were struggling. They were down on the luck as well. McLaren had the strategy perfect. They had the tyres perfect. It was their perfect race. So well done, McLaren. We'll talk more about them later. Talking about this crash, though, it all led up to, didn't it, for Max Verstappen? The race was already gone for him. He had an ERS failure about 5 laps before, so his battery wasn't charging. It would have been a terminal issue now, we understand as well, because it just was struggling to charge up. So he was down on power. He was down on speed as well. That's why he couldn't get ahead of Lando Norris or even catch Danny Ricciardo before the pit lane. Then he had that slow stop. I said in commentary, Red Bull, they've got the world record for the quickest ever pit stop at 1.92 seconds. Today, it was almost 100 times worse, 11.1 seconds until it got going as well. And that put Verstappen in a really, really bad mood. I don't think he was using his head today. He was driving on pure anger and emotion as well. He came in towards turn 1. Hamilton himself had a slow stop as well after he got the lead out from Lando Norris. It all was a bit messy. It was all very messy. 4.1 seconds as well. Slow stop at the rear. Came down out of the pit lane. I've read the document for the stewards as well. The stewards say that Hamilton, because he was already he was ahead at the 50-meter board. So anything past that, it's a very late move from the car behind, and it's the car behind that's at fault. So Hamilton was into turn 1. He was fine. He did not need to give any room to Max Verstappen. That's what the stewards have actually said. Verstappen did not need or deserve to have the right of racing room because he'd gone for the move so late. Apparently, he got quite ugly in the press conference in the stewards room because Verstappen completely blamed Hamilton, and Hamilton kept calm and said, look, this is what happened. It is all from Max Verstappen. And it was. The stewards looked at CCTV footage and decided it was that of Max Verstappen. He's got that 3-place grid penalty next time out. My reaction in the commentary box was of sheer disbelief. I sort of got stuck. I was jumping up and down once again. I don't know where that's come from. It's George Russell nearly in second place, and now this. I was jumping up and down in the commentary box going, it's happened again. It's happened again. I could not believe it. I thought once is just a fluke, but this is becoming regular. Another crash at another sprint weekend, and it's doing damage to the title fight. It's taken less than less points out than both. I can't wait until Sao Paulo because we've only got 2-3 races to go at that point. If they crash in this last one, unbelievable. Really can't believe it. So yeah, my idea of this, to quote Martin Brundle on this one, Max Verstappen into turn 1. He was a day late and $1 short.
I completely agree with everything you said, Josh. And we have a comment from Humperdinck who says, I personally think Lewis could have left room, but as lead car, he had the right corner, had the right to the corner. So I understand the penalty. And I completely agree with you, Humperdinck. And he also says, I think the penalty was fair. It was not a severe infraction. I agree with that as well. This championship is just as tight as it is in IndyCar. And do I see being the last time that Lewis and Max have a confrontation on track? Oh, no. You think back to the rivals of back in the day in F1. Senna versus Prost is one that a lot of people bring up, and especially what happened at Suzuka, Japan in 1990, when both of those Marlboro and McLaren drivers went out of the race. this is an intense rivalry, and it ain't done just yet. So if you're an F1 fan, be sure to watch the last few races, because this championship is going to go right down to the end, and it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I think I saw somebody on social media call this our generation's Senna Prost coming together. I personally think maybe a better comparison is when Hamilton and Rosberg came together at Spain in 2016, because they were actually teammates, although Hamilton and Verstappen are championship rivals. Obviously, they're competing for Mercedes and Red Bull respectively, but still obviously a very huge moment in the championship, the two of them coming together once again, and this time both of them being taken out, something we're going to be talking about for a long, long time, I'm sure. And of course, the other major storyline was the big day for McLaren, returning to the top step of the podium for the first time in 3,213 days. Michael Schumacher was on the grid the last time McLaren won a Grand Prix, to give you an idea of how long it's been, and now his son Mick is racing for Haas. Lando Norris scored his fourth podium of the year. Daniel Ricciardo winning for the first time since the 2018 Monaco Grand Prix, also doing his traditional shoey on the podium. Norris and McLaren CEO Zach Brown also joined in on the fun. Ricciardo hasn't run as strong as Norris for most of this season, and some questioned if he'd be at McLaren long-term, especially with McLaren IndyCar driver Pato O'Ward, as we've been talking about on this show several times, emerging as a young star and getting an F1 test with the team later this year. So, Adam and Josh, did Daniel Ricciardo's performance today silence the critics that may have doubted him when he moved to McLaren?
Oh, yeah. It was really cool to see Daniel Ricciardo on the top step of the podium in Italy. I've got a lot of friends who live in Australia, and from what I saw on their social media pages, they went absolutely crazy. And we can't forget that Daniel Ricciardo is a real talented Formula One driver. I don't think he silenced the critics today, but he said, "Hey, I'm not Max Verstappen. I'm not Lewis Hamilton, but I can still go out and compete for wins." Do I think Daniel Ricciardo has it? I believe Daniel Ricciardo will be in Formula One for many years to come and compete for championships. It was really cool to see him do the shoey for the first time in a very, very long time.
Yeah, of course, the last time he went to do a shoey, Prince Albert was on the podium as well. It was so long ago for both of them as well. What a race it was for McLaren as well. We had, as you said, over 3,000 days since that race in Brazil 2012. Coincidentally enough, it was Paul di Resta who ensured the McLaren victory that day, because he crashed at the top of the hill coming out of Junção as well at the top of the hill in a very wet race, by the way. That decided a championship. Has this silenced the Ricciardo critics? Yes, basically. Megan came into the commentary box at the end of the watch along. She was popping in and out all day, and she said as well, she said, so who's number one at McLaren? Is it still Lando Norris? And I said, nope, it's Danny Ricciardo now. You've got a race. It was always going to be Danny Ricciardo eventually. It's taken a long, long time, 14 races to get this car sorted. Carlos Sainz had that Ferrari nailed down race 1. Sergio Perez had the Red Bull nailed race 6. It's taken 14 races for Danny Rick to get that. He actually in the press conference as well, didn't he? He said, it was the summer break that really made me feel at home at McLaren. It gave him time to think, and it really helped him as well. The one thing is, actually, this is the first weekend that Natalie Pinkham hasn't attended since the summer break came back as well. And if those of you who don't know, Natalie Pinkham is very close to Danny Ricciardo. Danny Ricciardo is the godfather to both her children, Wilf and Willow, as well. So if you wondered what Danny Ricciardo's haircut was a couple of years ago, Wilf had buzzed him when he was asleep. And Natalie, who was pregnant with Willow at the time, was crying on the floor going, he's bald, he looks ridiculous as well. But so they've got a very close relationship, and Natalie has absolutely gone beside herself. But I think maybe she'll be asked to stay away if Danny Rick can win these as well. It certainly silenced me as well. I've been critical of him this year. I've been saying it shouldn't have taken this long. He should have been up to speed with the car. He's proved me wrong. This weekend, he has been super reliable. He's been super fast as well ever since practice. Maybe he does like the sprint weekends. He said it himself yesterday. I like these formats. There's a lot more pressure. There's a lot more nerves. He thrives on that as well. We saw that in the Red Bull days. So I'll tell you one thing. If we do have to keep F1 sprint weekends, I'm up for races like this. Silverstone was a classic, and we had here in Italy another classic, both with Hamilton, Verstappen crashing, but winners you wouldn't really see along the way. So maybe the sprint can be adapted and we can have it if it delivers us unpredictable races. So well done, Danny Rick. I put my shirt on earlier on as well for a victory for McLaren. That hasn't been worn since that day in 2012.
And of course, Ricardo is a big Dale Earnhardt fan. Part of the reason why he uses number 3, and Zach Brown's promised him driving one of Dale Earnhardt's old Winston Cup cars from the 1980s. So that's going to be something special to see. And I see we have a chat comment as well from Humperdinck saying, I think that win was huge in silencing his critics. And certainly agree there. And some more coming in as well. It would have been different if Lando was quicker, but Daniel won on outright pace. Yeah, well, I think, Josh, to bounce off of something that you said when talking about Grosjean, I think if there was ever a weekend where you could argue somebody won the race at the first corner, usually we say you can lose it, but you can't win it. I think Daniel Ricciardo definitely with the move he put off with that excellent start, certainly put himself in contention to grab the win. And you want to respond to that? Or
Lando actually asked, didn't he, during the race, is this the right position you want me to be in? But even he had to do it. It was the right thing to do. He had to question the team whether they were 1-2. Do you want me to go ahead? He was faster. The lap times proved it as well. Ian Birch and myself were standing up here in the box, and he was looking at the timing screen. He's going, Lando is much faster than Danny Rick. So it resulted in Lando having to call saying, is this the right strategy? Very similar to 98 when Ralf Schumacher and Damon Hill were leading 1-2 for Jordan, and Damon got on the blower to Eddie Jordan and said, look, if we race and we crash, we lose everything. But if we stay where we are, we get a 1-2. And then, of course, we had the team order. Yes, Lando, this is where you need to be. So I think if Lando was allowed to race, it would have been Lando who would have been victorious today. But he was very gracious and very mature that he took the gentleman approach and the gentleman driver, and he took one for the team with a 1-2. But I think he could have done it. I'm not sure what you guys think as well. Could Lando have won a race? Certainly, he's done 3 now. He's done 2. 1's next for the top step of the podium. He will be a winner this year.
Yeah, I think Lando for sure. I don't know about today, but you look at how strong the McLaren is this year. Certainly wouldn't count out the possibility of him winning a race this season as well. And shifting over to the Mercedes side of Formula One, their one driver, Lewis Hamilton, certainly didn't have such a great day being taken out. The other one put together one of the best weekends of his entire career. Coming from the back of the grid, Valtteri Bottas drove through the field to take the final podium spot with the 2 McLaren drivers. This coming on a weekend where he won the pole from the sprint race, won the sprint race itself, had to go all the way to the back of the pack on the grid with an engine penalty, and still drove through the field and ended the weekend in P3. And it's a very timely performance as well. It comes nearly a week after it was announced that he'll be leaving Mercedes after 5 seasons with the team, going over to drive for Alfa Romeo next year. So Josh and Adam, with his F1 future secure and less pressure to perform now, is there an opportunity? We're going to Russia, which is where Bottas won his last Grand Prix. Could we see Bottas win again once or twice more before he leaves Mercedes at the end of the year?
Russia has been dominated by Mercedes since 1914. They're the only team to ever win there. So he has got a 50% chance of winning. And whether it be Lewis Hamilton or Valtteri Bottas, who can say? But Bottas has won there twice, 17 and 20, as you said. So it's sign of his last victory. So definitely going into Russia, Valtteri's going to be thinking, game on. This could be my last chance to win a race for Mercedes. This could be my last chance to win a Grand Prix. He's going to go full on, and definitely this weekend has given him the energy again. He's won the F1 sprint race, which was great for him. Should have started on pole. And I'll admit it, I did think during the commentary in my head as well, and I voiced it as well, but I did think of you, Ben, during the F1 race, thinking, oh my God, he's picked him for pick a winner, and he might be right with the fact that he was nearly going to lead the race. He was third and could have closed in, but the gap and the tyres just blew it. But there was a chance he could have won today, and that would have been the first ever driver to win from the back to the front as well. The furthest back was John Watson, who was 22nd at Long Beach in 85 or 86, one of the years. The only years was at McLaren, actually. But yeah, definitely. Valtteri has now had a great weekend here. He even smiled, didn't he, when he was shown what happened to Hamilton and Verstappen. Look, he's got his P45. He's got his contract at Alfa Romeo. He's got his new Quattroporte. He's fine. He's going to enjoy these last few races, go for some wins. And I don't think he's going to help Lewis in the title. I really don't. They may be friends, but I don't think Valtteri cares.
Do I think Valtteri Bottas can win an F1 race toward the end of the year? Oh, yeah. Do I think he has a good shot to win in Russia at Sochi? Oh yeah, like you said, Josh, Mercedes has won there a whole lot, and Valtteri Bottas has two wins. I wouldn't count him out for a victory in Russia. You know, forget all the other races as well. Valtteri Bottas, to me, he drove an incredible race, starting from the back, even though he won the F1 sprint race. And he drove fantastically, getting up to P3. Overall, I was really happy to see that. And I wouldn't count out Valtteri Bottas for a win just yet. He's going to want to go out and go for broke before he heads to Alfa Romeo in 2022.
Yeah, I think I did ultimately settle on Verstappen for pick a winner, which I ended up jinxing both of the title protagonists, I guess. But I was thinking to myself, Valtteri on the fresh mediums, sitting there in P4, knowing Perez had the 5-second penalty. I'm thinking to myself, if he comes from P20 on the grid, and I joked about picking him, and I could have had him as my pick a winner on the most unlikely of weekends. That would have been certainly very ironic there. But great weekend for Valtteri, and I totally agree with both of you guys. I think he is fired up and certainly doesn't have the pressure anymore, knowing that his future is set for next year. So there could certainly be an opportunity for him to get one or two more victories by the time the season's over. He's definitely got the car to do it. And people forget he's won 9 of them before. So he certainly, it's not like he doesn't know how to win a Formula One race. He's done it before, and I think he could do it again. And now we'll pass it off to Kobe. You and Josh will give an update on MotoGP.
Thank you, Ben. Oh boy, what a race that was this morning on the East Coast. The MotoGP Argonne Grand Prix. We saw 3 lead changes during the final lap, 7 in the last 3 laps. However, Pecco Bagnaia sealed the deal when Marc Marquez went wide and lost too much ground. His first MotoGP win and third for the Ducati team, following Jack Miller's 2 wins earlier this season. Josh, when looking at Jack Miller, now that Pecco has a win, does he have an extra boost of confidence going for wins because he's now gotten the first one out of the way? I know a lot of times we see drivers who we think gonna win, and then it's like, oh, they're so close, but they just can't put together a complete race. I think we saw that in IndyCar with Pato O'Ward several times, and then he finally got the monkey off his back at Texas in the doubleheader weekend, and then he won the, I believe, the following month on the streets of Detroit. So do you think, like with drivers like this, after coming so close to winning so many times, getting the first one out of the way, is that like a big confidence booster?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Gigi Dall'Igna was asked, I think yesterday in qualifying after he took pole position, is this going to be the weekend that Peppo finally gets his first win as well? Because, as you say, Jack Miller has had it before. He's had multiple races this year. He won his first one a couple of years ago. But yeah, Francesco Bagnaia, what a race. I bow to him. He held off a fantastic charge from Marc Marquez. And it's literally the floodgates have opened for him now. He's won his first race. There's now nothing stopping him doing it again. He's learned how to control the whole shot device. He's learned how to control the MotoGP race. If you can go fisticuffs with Marc Marquez at one of his bests, which, let's face it, he was today, you can do anything. I said in the commentary as well, we've just seen the birth of a new world champion because he is brilliant. I've never seen someone go that much with Marc Marquez for their first win. It was brilliant. A David and Goliath battle, I think, was best to describe it. For Jack Miller in that part as well, this is going to give him a bit of a ego boost as well. He started second on the grid as well and fell back into third, fourth, fifth places as well during out the race as well. Definitely here, this is going to give him a bit of a kick up because the team now know they've got two riders who can win. So it puts more pressure on Miller to perform because if he doesn't, they'll stick with Bagnaia and just replace Jack Miller. But I think the Ducatis have just been having fun this weekend. We saw the giddy up moments that Miller was having. We saw Bagnaia was being cheeky with everybody throughout the weekend. It's been fantastic. And it was a pleasure to commentate on that race because it was a pleasure to call another first-time winner this season. And yeah, and I think we've got Marc Marquez back. He likes this kit a lot, and he was back up there. Definitely. I think go toe-to-toe with a 9-time world champion and come out on top for your first ever win, you are definitely something special.
Something special, and it was certainly a special day for Pecco Bagnaia taking down Marc Marquez to win today's Argonne Grand Prix, and Juan Mir took third place. He started a string of podium finishes last year here and closed up on Fabio Quartararo, who started third but finished eighth. Was Fabio Quartararo a bit more conservative today to protect his lead by focusing on collecting points?
He had a very, very strange start, didn't he, from third on the grid. The Ducatis had the usual hole shot, as I said, but Marc Marquez went off like a bullet as well, just straight off in towards turn one, and Quartararo dropped back to 9th place as well. He was terrible throughout today. I don't think it was being conservative. I think he had the wrong tyre choice. Now, everyone went hard front, soft rear, bar Zarco, who went medium front, soft rear. But I think they should have gone medium front, soft rear because it just didn't work. The tyres were dead before the end of the first lap. They just never switched on. So that Yamaha looked really, really slow all weekend long. But Carl Crutchlow, he was loving it. He was out there too. So I think you're right there, Kobe, that he was definitely being conservative and trying to keep his points lead. But at the same time, he's dropped back. And as soon as you drop back at Aragon as well, it's quite difficult to claw back. It's like an IndyCar or NASCAR race on an oval. You get past, you're going to go down, down, and down. I think that's what happened. So El Diablo's got to have a fight back if he wants to keep this championship alive. Because let me tell you something. I've said before on the show, I expect him to be world champion. I even said yesterday, I expect it by the time we get to COTA. After today, I'm unsure about that one. The back and forth reminded me of 2015 Malaysia with Rossi, only it was clear they were both giving 10 out of 10s here as well. That's on Humperdinck as well. And I do agree with you there. It was very much 2015. I was even thinking that in the commentary as well. I was waiting for one of them to fall over every time they came into turn 13 because it's a downhill trail break. The front end comes up as well. I was expecting one of them to bin it. And in the end, it was Marc Marquez. Went in too deep for a maneuver, ran off the track. Even Megan, who is a psychology student as well and loves motorsport as well. She was stood in the box with absolute speechlessness. I've never seen her like that. Absolutely unbelievable race. A proper dogfight.
A proper dogfight is definitely the best way to put it. And with 5 races remaining on the schedule, every race moving forward counts because we know the COVID pandemic is still raging in various parts of the world. So we could very well see more cancellations with just a couple of races remaining. So you need to make sure that you're scoring every point you can because it truly matters more than ever with so much uncertainty happening right now in the world. And we'll definitely be following Fabio Quartararo's effort to get his very first MotoGP World Championship. Now here's Ben with a brief World Rally Championship update from the Acropolis Rally over in Greece.
Thank you, Kobe. Callie Robin Pera took the Acropolis Rally over Tanak and Sebastian Ogier, rounding out the top three, with Elfyn Evans and Terry Neuville finishing further behind. Ogier is looking set for his 8th WRC championship, and this is his final season of racing full-time WRC. Now let's send it back to you, Kobe, to lead off our recap of a NASCAR race weekend at Richmond.
And yesterday on Grid Live pre-race, we predicted Joe Gibbs Racing would be the team to beat. Oh boy, we absolutely nailed that one because Martin Truex Jr. led a JGR 1-2-3 finish last night at Richmond Raceway. Truex won for the first time since the Darlington Spring Race in May. Perfect timing for the team to build momentum at the right time. Denny Hamlin dominated the race, but like Chip Ganassi says, close but no cigar. Finished runner-up position, Christopher Bell in third. And if it wasn't for a pit road speeding penalty, I truly believe Kyle Busch would have completed a JGR 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of settling for 9th place. And all of the talk has been about Hendrick Motorsports for most of the season after Joe Gibbs Racing dominated the night at Richmond yesterday. Have we underestimated them as true championship contenders? As crazy as that sounds.
Oh, yeah. We saw it last night. And where do we go next in NASCAR? The high banks of Bristol Motor Speedway and the hills of Tennessee. Kyle Busch has been really good there too. So I wouldn't count out Joe Gibbs Racing for this championship. I don't think Christopher Bell has a shot to win, but I wouldn't count out his teammates, Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Busch. We saw last night that all 4 Joe Gibbs cars had really strong runs. Hendrick Motorsports better not look back now because another team is going to be in contention for that championship, and that team is Joe Gibbs Racing. Look at Hendrick Motorsports because JGR is coming for you.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about. I think a lot of times people talk about peaking at the right time, and I'm wondering maybe Hendrick Motorsports has peaked a little too early, and now Joe Gibbs Racing seems to be peaking at the right time. Adam, like you said, Kyle Busch very strong at Bristol historically, and could have honestly won the Richmond race had it not been for that speeding penalty. Yeah, Denny Hamlin opened the playoffs with a win at Darlington. And last night, Martin Truex Jr. getting the win at Richmond, and Christopher Bell looking very strong as well. So, I think as crazy as it sounds, Joe Gibbs Racing has kind of been flying under the radar. We talk about Kyle Busch not looking like himself without having practice and qualify and get his car ready and having to jump in straight into a lot of these races here. And Denny Hamlin, despite the fact that he is, if you take the playoffs away, fighting for a full season championship and fought for the regular season championship with Kyle Larson, not winning a race when that's virtually all that matters these days with the playoff system is kind of caused him to fly under the radar as well. And yet here we are in the playoffs, and now it looks like the entire team could be contending for a championship. So I'm looking forward to the Hendrick and Gibbs battle. I think it's shaping up to be a good one.
And speaking of flying under the radar, while most people have kept their eye on the playoff driver, there's one non-playoff driver who has really been turning it on lately, and that driver is the driver of number 42 Chevrolet, the Watermelon Man, Ross Chastain, who's been showing a lot of race-winning speed, finishing 3rd at Darlington and 7th last night at Richmond. He had one of the fastest cars on the track at one point. We know Chip Ganassi Racing is shutting down its NASCAR program at the end of the year, and Chastain will be transitioning over to Trackhouse Racing. Can Ross Chastain and Ganassi win a race with 8 races to go?
If you'd asked me that question 2 or 3 months ago, I would have said probably not. It would have probably needed to take, like a weather incident like the lightning strike we saw at Daytona with Justin Haley a couple years ago, or a rain-shortened race, fuel mileage strategy or something like that, or stars aligned at Daytona Talladega. Nothing against Ross Chastain. I think he showed a lot of speed in trucks and Xfinity. But it has been kind of a rough season for him, and ultimately missed out on the playoffs. And yet here we are now, and we've seen quite a few strong runs from him recently, and Richmond was no exception. So, we'll see. The team's certainly looking strong right now, and you got to think Ganassi's got to be hoping to go out on a high note before Trackhouse purchases the team going into the 2022 season. So, crazier things have happened in NASCAR. So we could see Ross Chastain get his first win by the end of the year.
There's a lot of tracks coming up where we could see Ross Chastain in victory lane. Bristol, and most notably Talladega, because as we all know there, anything can, will, and usually does happen at Talladega. So I wouldn't count out Ross Chastain for a victory. It's been really cool to see him having these strong runs at the end of the year before he goes to Trackhouse in 2022. I know his fans are really happy for him right now. So I wouldn't count out Ross Chastain for a victory this year. I believe there are several tracks that he could contend toward the end of the season.
And with Ross Chastain and the number 42 team running so well lately, it makes it even more of a shame that Chip Ganassi Racing is leaving NASCAR at the end of the year, because we know the story about Ross Chastain, how he was driving underfunded equipment in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and then he bet on himself to run several races in that number 42 Chip Ganassi Racing Xfinity car, and he was able to get a win at Las Vegas Motor Speedway in one of his several starts. And that really propelled his career, where he was able to get the opportunity to fight for a championship at Nice Motorsports in the Truck Series, then run with Colic Racing in Xfinity, and now in the NASCAR Cup Series with Chip Ganassi Racing. And I'm sure when Ross heard that Chip Ganassi was going to be bowing out of NASCAR, it was really devastating. But he had a previous relationship with Justin Marks, and the opportunity at Trackhouse just worked out perfectly for him. But if you're a Trackhouse racing Justin Marks and Pitbull, you have to be very excited to see how Ross is performing, because I know several members of Chip Ganassi Racing will also be transitioning with Ross over to Trackhouse, and I certainly think that Trackhouse could be a team to be reckoned with in the future. And while this Ganassi driver had a strong night, the other Ganassi driver's night ended prematurely. Kurt Busch had a left rear tire go down entering turn 1, snapped around quickly, and crashed out of the race in an accident many compared to the hit that ended Jerry Nadeau's racing career in 2003. Luckily, Kurt got out of the car unharmed. As for his championship hopes, Kurt currently holds the 12th and final spot heading into the cutoff Bristol night race. So there's no room for error for Alex Bowman as well. 13th, 0 points back. Tyler Reddick, 14th, 5 points out. William Byron really struggled at Richmond. It was kind of surprising to me. He's 15th and 18 points out. In order to make life a little bit easier for him at Bristol, he'll likely need to focus on scoring max stage points. And depending on what's the point situation after stage 2, he could be in a must-win situation. One driver definitely in a must-win situation is Michael McDowell, 16 points, 38 points behind. Had a wreck at Darlington and 3 pit road speed and penalties last night. And out of the 5 drivers that I mentioned, who should be most worried entering Bristol?
For me, you have to look at the 200 teammates, Alex Bowman and William Byron. We said that Hendrick Motorsports during the regular season all 4 had really strong cars. But now, if things don't improve, you could see 2 of them out of the first round of the playoffs. Alex Bowman and William Byron are going to have to go all out, especially at Bristol, to get in to the round of 12. They're going to have strong pit stops, and just contend all night long in order for them to advance. Hopefully they do and give all 400 drivers a shot to win the championship.
Yeah, Adam, I'm with you. I have to agree completely. That's exactly what my answer is going to be. It's got to be William Byron and Alex Bowman. And, looking at how strong Hendrick have been the last few months, I think some people were even going so far as to say they could be the first team to lock out the championship four entirely with their 4 drivers. They've all looked so strong this season, and yet 2 of them find themselves past the cutoff line with only 1 race in the first round. And, you can't get to the championship 4 if you don't make it out of the third round, let alone the first. So, I think there's got to be a lot of pressure on those 2 young Hendrick drivers to make something happen. And I don't know if there's room. There's probably room for both of them, if certain things go their way. But, it's going to be interesting to see how they race each other and how they approach the Bristol weekend. I guess some people might say Michael McDowell, but like we've been saying from the start, he's just happy to be here. And, crazy, like I said, crazier things have happened in NASCAR history, but definitely a must-win situation for him and the Front Row Motorsports team heading into Bristol. And now we'll give a brief update on IMSA. Here are the class winners from the IMSA race at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. DPI, the number 10, Wayne Taylor Racing, Acura DPI with Ricky Taylor and Felipe Albuquerque. LMP2, the number 52, PR1, Matheson Motorsports car with Ben Keating and Mikkel Jensen. GTLM, number 4, Corvette Racing car with Tommy Milner and Nick Tandy. And in GTD, number 9 from FAF Motorsports, Lawrence Vanthor and Zachary Robichon. IMSA returns in 2 weeks' time at the Grand Prix of Long Beach, sharing the iconic street circuit with the NTT IndyCar Series. And now over to Adam for one of our favorite segments as we close out the show, One Shining Moment.
Thanks. Thank you very much for that, Ben. And now it's time for our grid One Shining Moment of the weekend. And I'll start with you, Josh. What was your one shining moment of this motorsports weekend?
I've got a couple, so I'm sorry, but it's been such a good day. First one, Bagnaia winning his first ever race in MotoGP. Number 2, Danny Ricciardo and McLaren winning for the first time since 2012 as well, and the first time for Ricciardo since 2018. Number 3, the fact that McLaren did not have enough champagne to celebrate between the team, so Mercedes gave them their champagne bottles so that McLaren could celebrate. And the fourth and final one is calling the Grand Prix of Portland with you all as well in a great race. I think that is a top moment for me as well.
And my one shining moment for the weekend, I got to go with the entire McLaren Formula One team. It was so special seeing McLaren win for the first time since 2012. And as we were saying, it's been over 3,000 days in the last time they won. Michael Schumacher was still racing in Formula One, and that's mind-blowing. It's been that long. I actually didn't realize that it's been that long since McLaren last won a race, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of partying going on in the UK when they get back. And overall, McLaren is just really had a wonderful day at Monza, and they did it on that right pace. I'm not sure even if Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen didn't collide, maybe we would have still seen Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris hold them off, because that was such a great performance. And also have to give a shout out to the CO Zach Brown as well, because I remember at one point when Zach Brown took over and all of the drama with Honda, a lot of people were saying maybe Zach Brown isn't the right person to lead McLaren moving forward, and maybe we need to see a change in direction at the top. And just like we were saying, Daniel Ricciardo silenced all of his doubters. I think Zach Brown really silenced a lot of his doubters as well today, and that's why I'm giving my great one shining moment to McLaren Formula One team drivers, Daniel Ricciardo, Lando Norris, the entire team, and McLaren's CEO Zach Brown.
Well, forgive me because I have a couple as well. First of all, one shining moment to Joe for all the work he did on site at Portland this weekend. Hard to overlook Valtteri Bottas, one of the best drives of his entire career all weekend long. Certainly proving his doubters wrong over in Formula One. But I want to give a call to Tommy Joe Martins. There's been in the news the last couple of weeks, the changes coming over to his team next year. Roger Cruz is actually going to do a couple of Xfinity races for that team next season. Tommy Joe pitted for new tires at the end of stage 1 in the Xfinity Series race at Richmond this weekend and actually drove all the way up front and passed AJ Allmendinger for the lead and very nearly hung on. He kind of got held up by David Starr there at the end, and Allmendinger got him back for the stage win. He ended up finishing second in the stage. But so cool to see Tommy Joe drive up on pace and on speed. I got to tell you, I've been an AJ Allmendinger fan for 15 years. I've never wanted AJ to get passed for the lead more badly in my life. Seeing Tommy Joe up there fighting for the lead. And, playoff points going to AJ, it's a good thing for colleague, but man, it would have been cool to see him hang on to the stage win. Didn't get the end result that he wanted, but still proved that he has what it takes to compete in the Xfinity Series and certainly getting some good TV time for his team and his sponsors. So wanted to make sure I gave him a shout out here because that was special to see.
And for my one, and for me, I got to give a call to Daniel Ricciardo and everyone at McLaren F1 and Zach Brown. That was an incredible Formula One race we saw today. Daniel Ricciardo started off on the front row and took off and never, ever looked back. Overall, I believe McLaren is partying right now in the UK, like you said, Josh, and Zach Brown's probably hasn't been to sleep yet. And also, I want to give a special shout out to everyone here at Grid Network for all the incredible jobs that we've all done this weekend, bringing you coverage of the Grand Prix of Portland from the Portland International Raceway. A special shout out to our colleague Josh. It was an honor to be a part of his watch along after watching a lot of it myself on his YouTube channel. So well done, Josh, and well done, everybody at Grid Network.
Thank you, and well done, everybody, as well. Cheers. Well done. It's been a great, great weekend.
Yes, it's definitely been an excellent weekend. A lot of hard work from Joe this weekend. So definitely I want to say thank you so much, Joe, for all of the work that you've done building up Grid Network, bringing us all here, because this is not only fun. Grid Network truly feels like a racing family, like my second family. So really appreciate everyone here for all their hard work this weekend. Every member of Grid Network played an important role in this weekend's special race coverage from Portland International Raceway and from all of our racing coverage from around the world. And I see Hunter Dink right here sharing a comment saying there's a ton of shining moments this weekend that you can't pick just one. Totally get that. There were many shining moments, and even myself, I was debating which shining moment I wanted to pick. I couldn't pick one, so I just decided to go with McLaren because I thought that was really special. Unfortunately, we're out of time for tonight. I want to remind all of our viewers out there, please like and subscribe to Grid Network here on YouTube so you don't miss any of our content from the Grand Prix of Portland. And if you want to know more about the city of Portland, we highly encourage you to check out Race Vibes Portland vlog so you'll get a better understanding of the Rose City. Also be sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok too. Pablo's has dog leashes, clothing, and accessories for dogs of all sizes. 10% of your purchase go towards helping homeless, sick, and rescued dogs. A great cause we support here at Grid Network. Also visit public.com. The stock market social media home. The referral code gives you $5 to invest immediately. Public.com will allow you to connect with your friends, will make new friends, and you'll get helpful tips for first timers investing in the stock market. And we also want to thank Colin, Mark, and Disha for supporting us on Patreon. A special shout out to our fourth and newest Patreon supporter, Robin H. If you're thinking about joining those four and investing more in Grid Network, please take a few minutes after the show and visit our Patreon page. Welcome, Robin. Thank you so much for supporting our growing motorsports media outlet. And this week, Adam and I will return on Wednesday with Grid Tonight, discussing the latest updates to the grid ranking and more. The women racing to win will be on Thursday morning. Saturday, all of us back here again for Grid Live pre-race, and Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up. We'll be on the air 90 minutes after the Indycar race at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. And if you're a brand new viewer to Grid Network, after viewing all of our Portland coverage, I want to say welcome to the Grid family. We're really happy to have you here, be a part of our motorsports adventure, and I hope you check out all of our content from this weekend at Portland International Raceway in the Pacific Northwest. For Adam Lemeries, Ben Snyder, Josh Birch, and Joe Samaniego for his IndyCar coverage at PIR, I'm Kobe Lambert from the Podium Finish. Thank you for watching and supporting our efforts on the ground this weekend in Portland. Have a wonderful week ahead, and we'll see you next time.
Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform, public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GRIDnet for your free $5 to invest and start investing and networking on public.com.